This is the Gen Y Leaders Podcast. Welcome to the Gen Y Leaders Podcast, where we guide millennials to become the next generation of business leaders and entrepreneurs. I'm your host, Eric Huey, and multiple times a month, we bring you interviews from high-performing millennials who are challenging perceptions and changing expectations of our generation. Our mission is to help you overcome fear, take action, and go confidently in the direction of your dreams. It's time to start preparing now, mainly because 10,000 baby boomers are retiring every day, which will create a vacuum of career opportunities that you've been waiting for. Will you be ready? Mitch, welcome to the Gen Y Leaders Podcast.
Thank you very much, Eric. Excited to be here.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited to have you on. This is going to be a great conversation. So if you could just tell viewers who you are and what you do.
Yeah, so my name is Mitch Case. I've been here in Kansas City for almost 10 years, and I've previously been in the construction industry doing commercial HVAC sales, and most recently decided to walk away from that position to pursue our own businesses. So we've got a couple different things going on, but one of the things that I'm most passionate about right now is our meal service business called More Than a Meal, where we really trying to help you strengthen your most valued relationships. So that's what I've been doing the last 3 months, trying to figure out this whole startup entrepreneurial journey while being a little bit more present with my 2 young boys and my wife here at home.
Definitely. I'm excited for this topic because I think it ties so strongly into why, and why I started this podcast, as far as helping millennials become more why driven and, not just having a job. So to that point, what's your why? What's got you doing what you're doing now?
Yeah, I'd say the biggest why for me is just really, being exposed as a father of young boys. COVID really brought this to my attention of moments where I was actually missing with my young boys. So, yeah. Getting pushed back into the house, working from home pretty early on when I was still at my previous employer, I just kind of recognized I was starting to enjoy those lunch hours, not doing the typical business lunches or the coffees, which, I'm still want to go to my Cozy's Cafe with you someday, Eric, and we can share another cup of coffee over there. But yeah, it was just really amazing to spend time with my boys, kicking the ball around, hanging out outside, going to the park. And I didn't even realize I was missing those moments. And it just kind of hit me at some point where I was like, man, this is the whole reason that I talk about, I go to work to be on vacation for 3 or 4 weeks a year, to spend that time with them. And if there's opportunities for me to maybe pursue my own companies, which I'm probably a little bit more passionate about than working for some other company, I was going to pursue that because it was going to allow me some different freedoms of time that I can, set boundaries around my work hours with work, but then also have the ability to shut it down and be a dad to my boys. And being able to marry those 2 things together right now has been a dream, man.
Yeah, it's a genius master plan. I think after you get X amount of years into your career, you start seeing that true wealth is really time that you alluded to, and spending time with family and doing it on your own schedule. So I admire you for walking away from your job and starting your own thing.
Well, I appreciate it. I'm in the thick of it right now, and the knees are still shaking, that's for sure, as I'm following my own footpath here, I suppose. But yeah, it's been a blessing. Absolutely.
Awesome. Well, congrats on taking the leap. People's burning question is, what was that experience like, quitting, walking into your office and saying, I'm out?
Telling my boss that I was quitting was probably one of the hardest things that I've done in a long time. Yeah. I wasn't in a position where I hated what I was doing or hated the people that I worked with. I actually really enjoyed what I was doing. I just had kind of that moment and that clarity of what my path was going to be to my end goal. And unfortunately, that position was no longer a part of that vision. So I decided to part ways. So that part was really, really challenging for me, actually. But the last day was one of the most liberating things that I had ever done. And I didn't even realize it. So it was definitely one of those moments where I'd always kind of had these side hustles. I wanted to go out and create residual wealth in whatever ways that I could outside of my day job. But I was never able to give like full effort towards any of those because it wasn't that wasn't the paycheck that I was working towards. It was my main hustle was my day job.
Yeah.
And now that I was actually able to walk away from that, it felt absolutely amazing that I could now like pour all of my energy and all of my heart and soul into these companies that I've built from the ground up, which I'm very, very passionate about. That was an experience that it's still like, it gets me super excited. Now I would love for it to be able to cover the expenses of our household right now, which we're working on that piece of it. But man, I get this question a lot. Like, what was it like? Yeah. Like I want our other people to reach out and say, Ryan, I can't wait to do the same thing that you've done. And, it's not that working for somebody else is wrong or bad or anything along those lines. If it's your path to be in that, that's absolutely fantastic. I've just always known that this was part of my vision and I wanted to go and create something out of nothing. So yeah, I wish I could have like this huge, like grand moment where fireworks are going off and everything on those lines. But it was definitely a sweet, sweet day to be on our own.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's so great to have that self-awareness to know your vision and what you want long-term, because I think some people don't. So paint the picture for us now that we got kind of like this climactic point where you're jumping out of the airplane, metaphorically speaking, into entrepreneurship. Go back and tell us a little bit about the beginning. From what I recall in our previous conversations, you had been in this corporate role and kind of started your company More Than a Meal as kind of a side hustle, and then that grew and you slowly eventually phased out of your corporate role. So kind of walk us through the history of the company.
Yeah. So it almost kind of starts a little bit from my previous employer, where I really had to go out and create my own book of business. And I didn't have a lot of like a plan or a rule book to follow on how to be creative and successful in that position. I basically became an entrepreneur inside of Midwest Machinery. And that really helped kind of fire my spirit towards, I really enjoy like being creative and the marketing side of things and the strategy and the sales and the relationships. So all of that really kind of got fired up inside of that, plus some readings and some other podcasts. So when we had our first son about 3.5 years ago, my wife had somewhat of a traumatic entrance with the delivery side of things, with developing preeclampsia, and ended up having a C-section. And it really just kind of knocked her down and out for a couple months, even after our son was born. And we had some meal kits that were dropped off at our house that friends just kind of chopped and prepared for us. Yeah. And I remember as I was coming back from work, because I was already going back to work at that point, and I'd come home, and my wife kind of looked at me and just like, I really felt like I helped out today. And all she had really done at that point was prepare this meal that she threw into a slow cooker, and dinner was done. So it wasn't a lot of effort, but it was a moment or a spark of like confidence. Sure. And just the fact that we knew that we were going to make it through this unknown time. We didn't know when all of this was going to like stop from having a newborn son, which I know you can relate to newborn babies right now. And I know you have your own story to tell on that, but it was just challenging. And having that moment where we felt like we were confident enough to tell ourselves that we knew what we were going to do, like I wanted to be able to share that moment for somebody else or provide that moment for somebody else. So we came up with the whole idea of like, what can we do to send out meal kits to people that have recently had babies and use it as a gift to send somebody that's really in need of some help. Yeah. So we actually started that company off as Mommy Meals, and we really focused on a business to consumer approach. And, my hat is off to any business that has ever done B2C, because it is a drag. It was really, really challenging. So of all of the meals that we had sold in the first 2.5 years, we recognized that the majority of those were actually being purchased from employers, business owners, HR directors, and sales teams. So we really kind of did a reorganization a couple months into COVID, and really focused our sales efforts towards the business to business side of things. But then we knew that we needed to rebrand our name as well to cover more of a wide net versus just newborn babies. Yeah. So we really wanted to focus on, newborns, death in the family, recovery. COVID is obviously one of the biggest things that we've seen people sending meals out for.
Yeah.
And just getting stuck in quarantine. Like we've had a lot of people that have had, sales meetings that had to get canceled due to exposure, and, they're sending them meals instead of sharing a meal. So.
Right. That's an awesome mission, man. I really appreciate and admire what you're doing, because I think it's huge, and I think there needs to be more companies championing, larger missions rather than just getting a dollar, so to speak. So I think it's awesome what you're doing. Thank
you. Yeah, I told myself I wasn't going to fall back into chasing that dollar, because that's exactly what I was doing at Midwest Machinery, and continuously. I'm a very money driven person, but there was a point where I recognized where I was valuing the dollar more than anything else.
Yep.
And that was leading to a continuous grind of meeting a quota and it not being enough, and then meeting that quota and it not being enough. And it was just extremely unfulfilling. Yep. So having a business that provides a lot of value to individuals, and getting to see like the face on those people when they receive those meals is, that's worth a lot of joy points, if you want to call them that.
Yeah, definitely. I think entrepreneurs go through kind of a product validity standpoint, or where you get kind of that, I guess I'll call it like a market echo, positive feedback, when your product's catching on and it's worthwhile to pursue. What point was that for you, where you kind of had the light bulb moment?
Yeah. I had a really good friend of mine kind of tell me, because I'm somebody that wants everything to be perfect before we send it out.
Yeah.
And they basically told me, which is one of like the best things I've ever heard. And I couldn't do anything but laugh about it. But she basically just said, if you aren't embarrassed by what you sent out the door, then you waited too long to sell it. So I was absolutely embarrassed by the first meals that we sent out the door. And I'm so glad that we've come a long ways. But that turning point was about that 2.5 year mark, just at the beginning of this year, honestly, where we were trying to make that decision. Okay, like this B2C is just, it's not working out. And that's when we really look back. All right, let's see who's buying our meals, why they're buying it, and looking at that data.
Yeah. And
when we recognized that over 80% of our orders were from business owners and HR directors and sales teams, like providing a unique way to connect and engage and stay top of mind with their clients and employees. That's where we recognize, all right, if we pour a little fuel on the fire where these people are ordering, and like my network is through the more business community too. And I knew that I could approach a lot of the business owners that have relationships already and see if that would be a fit. And since we've made that change, we've probably, I don't know the exact numbers, but we've probably almost matched how many meals we sold previously in the last 2.5 years than we have in the last 3 or 4 months.
Wow. That's awesome.
So there's some good, that feels good from a validation standpoint. That's for sure.
Definitely. And is that kind of simultaneously where you decided to rebrand it from Mommy Meals to More Than a Meal as well?
Yeah. So that was definitely our point of realizing like we can no longer stay as focused. We definitely want to be a niche, and our niche, I believe, is really being a meal kit service that is a gift to other people that you can help connect and engage. That's a little bit different from a lot of the other meal kit services that you might have out there with subscription service or self-consumed, or going in and picking it up at a grocery store, just kind of being an inconvenience. But again, like the gift side of things, that's kind of our, it's not our secret sauce by any means, but it's definitely our niche.
For sure. How has this year affected your business, with businesses meeting virtually, not as many company gatherings, people in the office, things like that?
Yeah. I mean, when we started this business, we did not plan on a pandemic being a part of our story, which I'm sure every business in the last, century, probably hadn't really planned on that too much. But just with what our service is, it's been actually a really big asset for a lot of people. Obviously with not having as many face-to-face interactions, not having business meetings as often, our meal kits are a way to still be there, so that people are thinking about you, or that they know that you're thinking about them. And in a way where we're, preparing the food in the way that it needs to be prepared to make sure everything is safe and COVID friendly, delivering that at a day and time that works well for who's receiving it. And yet, it's a way to share a meal, bring the family back around the dinner table, and kind of create that memorable moment. But now we're able to do that in a way where you get to be the person that provided that to somebody else. So I'm really trying to change the mindset on a lot of people that are purchasing different kind of gifts, or even just, like I said early on, like, we need to think about the ways that we're going out and spending money on our clients at times, because I know I would go and drop $100 at a client lunch, and I would have surface level conversations with that potential prospect or client, where I can potentially go through, and I did use our meal service a handful of times through my previous employer, where now I was providing that relationship for my client and his family to be together and really create some lasting relationships through that. Because, again, like with us trying to strengthen those most valued relationships, like what a wonderful way to be able to do that if we can help strengthen that person's most valued relationships, which I would argue 9 times out of 10, they'll probably list a family member.
Oh yeah, without a doubt. That's awesome. That's a huge perspective that I didn't even think about, but that's a really great point. Because I mean, that $100 at a restaurant versus, breaking that $100 over the cost of a few meals delivered to their home, that's going to go a lot further than having to pay for the hospitality and entertainment of a restaurant.
Yeah.
That's great. What's it like working with your wife and having a family business?
So my wife is definitely somewhat involved, but I would say that I definitely am the stakeholder and the time and effort that goes into the organization. But what I would say the biggest challenge for us is not necessarily what's it like working with my wife, but what's it like working from home with my wife and having 2 young kids.
Right.
So my wife has her own business on the side as well. So cool. We've got a couple things going on. And now that I am home and we're trying to figure out this balance, it's, whose turn is it with the boys so that we can each get the work done that we need to get done. So that's probably the biggest challenge, and probably the biggest thing that we've had, the biggest hurdle that we've had since I've walked away, was trying to figure out this dynamic of both of us being home, both of us needing to get the work done, and both of us being present parents at the same time. So
big challenge.
I can't say that we've got it all figured out yet. We're still about 3 months in right now. So there's definitely some challenges ahead of us, but hey, we communicate a lot. We lay it out on the table, and we're very open with what we want to be able to achieve. And I think with us being on the same page, it's the only thing we can do. For sure.
Yep. Just keep on keeping on. And then what about the meals themselves? Who's prepping those? Is that something you guys do? Do you have a third party prep those?
Yeah. So when I told you we were absolutely embarrassed by what we were sending out before, I wish I was kidding, but we just went and grabbed a couple things off of the grocery shelf or the grocery store shelves, put in a bag and dropped it off and said, thank you.
Yeah.
So since then, with our big reorganization, we knew that we needed to bring on like a commercial kitchen. So we have a partner down in Gardner, Kansas that delivers for us within a 1-hour radius. Cool. It's a local family owned business. She went from having about 4 to 5 catering events a week, and then COVID hit. Wow. And she went to 0.
Dang.
So this was like a perfect partnership where, one, she was looking for another stream of revenue. Yeah. We were really looking for somebody that kind of saw our vision, would be willing to get started with us and grow with us. And ironically, she catered our wedding about 5 years ago. And we worked out a great partnership for her to help us, prep, package, and deliver those meals. I get to hang out with her once or twice a month where we get to, kind of strategize on maybe some new meal options, packaging, all that kind of stuff. So she's not officially part of our team, but she is a critical piece of what we do. And
sounds like an awesome win-win situation.
Yeah, I definitely consider her part of our team for sure.
I think a lot of people listening who may be entrepreneurs or maybe on the verge of entrepreneurship and kind of hoping to follow in your footsteps. Is there a certain skill set or maybe multiple skill sets that you could point to that have helped you take this leap of faith into entrepreneurship?
That's a really good question. I think one of the things that has helped me the most was already having somewhat of a routine before I even took this leap. Yeah. Sure, there's financial stuff you need to make sure you're good and set for. There's a lot of things that go into it, but I think one of the things that stick out the most that has helped me stay driven, stay focused on what that is one, it's the daily journal that helps out quite a bit. But I've kind of got I'm an engineer. I'm kind of nerdy. So I've got like point systems to help me, and I've got trackers and all this kind of stuff.
Cool.
I know how many phone calls I need to make in a day. I know how many, I don't want to say the word pitch, but like talk to somebody more so about, what's the next steps. So I actually have rewards and, I can't think of the word, but a financial thing. So, if I hit my goals and I do that so many days in a row, I reward myself with some financial things where I can go and spend some money on myself or for our family to go out and do things. But I also have the flip side. If I don't hit that daily goal, then I owe for that as well. So those are kind of little things that just kind of help me make sure that I'm staying motivated, getting up, doing the work that needs to be done where, there's, I've had a handful of people that have come up to me and like told me that this was, might have been a very irresponsible decision. And I mean, from the outsider's look, I have 2 young boys. I was the sole source of income for my family for the most part. I've got a wife, and we've got a house, and we've got payments, and we've got bills and all that kind of stuff. And I think it really just came down to the point where I was willing to bet on myself. Yep. I knew that my drive was right. I knew that my goals were right. And I was ready to bet on myself.
Yep. That's awesome. And to that point, I mean, were there certain pockets of relationships that you had, whether it be family, friends, people at your job? What were their reactions to it, respectively?
My wife always joked that she was just waiting for me to walk through the door and say like, well, I'm done. I quit and not even tell her. So my wife has been a huge supporter of this. And I know that if she wasn't on board or had the trust in what I'm able to create, and honestly, she's even been able to help pick me up when I have my doubts already. She was in a space of just, let's do this. Let's do this. So complete support there. Definitely like my parents and maybe even some of my in-laws, like they thought that I would eventually do it. I think they thought this might've been a little bit early, but, again, like they knew who I am and they knew that I wasn't going to, let anything fall through. And, God forbid I fall flat on my face and nothing creates anything. There are opportunities out there for me to go and create some, comfort money.
For sure. Yeah, without a doubt. You mentioned the journal a little bit ago. So I guess my question is, what was that journal? Or do you like kind of free thought journal? And on top of that, are there books or resources that you'd recommend to listeners in general?
Yeah. So the journal that I use is the high performance planner or high performance journal, I think is what it's called. I don't have it with me here right now, but it really helps kind of set my mindset for the day. It does like a morning routine. It kind of structures the day. I put down what my mission statement is for each and every day, the goals that I want to accomplish for the day. And then it kind of has a reflection on the evening, like how did things go? What was nice? What was bad? And then you can measure yourself. And that's one of the things from one of my really good friends, Logan Freeman, had told me is like, if you are not measuring, you are not growing. So that's something that that high performance planner has really helped me try and measure myself in ways that I knew that I was growing.
Yeah.
The 2 books that I absolutely love and have kind of used not only for like building my network, but also almost to the point of what our company is. And I actually have them right next to me because I was talking about it earlier today. 7 Levels of Communication by Michael Maurer.
Okay.
This is a book on just kind of referral networking. And what I really love about that book, Michael Maurer is actually originally from Kansas City. So there's a lot of, it's more of a parable. So you're reading through the story and he kind of weaves in good ideas and business ideas. And he has a little bit of Kansas City mentioned in the book. So that's always kind of fun, but
sure.
It really focuses on, like we were joking about Cozy's Cafe. Like I learned Cozy's Cafe from this book because now I have a home base. Yeah. And a lot of people know that I get to sit and hang out at Cozy's Cafe on Tuesdays and Thursday mornings. But that's been a really influential book for me in building a network that people have come to know and trust who I am and what I'm doing. So that's been influential. The other one that I really, really like is Giftology. I don't know if that's a tough one to see on there, but Giftology really kind of goes into this idea of like gifting to give and not to get. There's another book out there called Go Giver by Bob Berg. That's kind of along those same premises, but Giftology really kind of puts together some game plans on maybe proper gifts and when to do it and when not to do it and that kind of stuff. So these are two books that have really been helpful. And like I said, it's the Giftology one has a lot to do with, the business that we created, More Than a Meal, that is a gift to be able to send to others and have a lasting impact.
Yeah, without a doubt. Thanks for the recommendations. We'll be sure to link those in the show notes for anyone who's interested in listening to this episode. Yeah. Mitch, last question. Where can people get in touch with you if they want business or personal advice?
Yeah, I would say the best way to connect with me is on LinkedIn. You can just connect with me, shoot me a private message, and just give me an idea of maybe how or why you get connected with me there. You can also shoot me an email at mitchc@morethan-a-mealco.com. And happy to answer any questions. A lot of stuff that I just like I love talking about business strategies and ideas, but even more so as I've kind of made this leap, I've had a lot of people reach out saying they want to do the same thing. So if you're in that position and you want to ask questions, I would love to be a sounding board, a resource. Just know I don't have it all figured out right now, but I'm kind of going through the process right now so I can give you some real raw information.
Definitely. Be a great resource for anyone who's interested. Thanks for that offer, Mitch.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for joining us on the Gen Y Leaders podcast, Mitch. Really appreciate all your time and insights, and good luck to you in growing your business.
Thank you very much, Eric. Appreciate it.
All right. We'll see you.
Take care.
That wraps up today's episode. We hope to have brought you some valuable key takeaways. Most importantly, whatever you learned, take action on it. Apply it to your life. Apply it to your career. Motivation and inspiration only come as a result of taking that first step. So if you're enjoying the podcast, don't forget to like and subscribe on whichever platform you found the show. You can also follow us on all the major social media platforms or contact us directly at genwhyleaders@gmail.com. That's GENWHY leaders@gmail.com. Until next time, I'm Eric Huey, and thanks for listening to the Gen Y Leaders podcast.